Hello guys, and welcome to Supreme Ruler 2030. So in Supreme Ruler 2030, let's get right to the point. They added naval turbines, which are a newer source of power with surprisingly efficient maintenance costs, but with the caveat of needing to be placed on an oceanic complex. Certainly adds more to making, say, offshore oil, because now you can make it more efficient by throwing those naval turbines on to give you something quite valuable and quite efficient and bring the overall cost down. However, what if you're only seeking power? Well, the way my Israel playthrough here has been going separately to this video, that inspired me to try to figure out Hydro, which was in SRU, the most efficient long-term power facility that there was. So if you wanted the lowest maintenance cost, you always, with resources included, you always went for Hydro for the amount of production that you got, but the upfront cost was always ridiculous. Well, Hydro is even better in this game. Still has that ridiculous upfront cost, but the actual production of electricity is even better. It's amazing. It's so amazing that it competes with things like nuclear, quite frankly, in this game. With the exception of how crazy much it costs to make, it's at least a very good way to stimulate your economy. But I needed to know, Hydro, which as you can see is a higher annual maintenance, versus naval turbines, which has a lower annual maintenance. Which of these is more efficient in the long run? So for this, using the numbers we have in front of us, I went ahead and I just wrote some shit out. All right, so we got Hydro costs 445 mil annual maintenance per facility. Offshore, these wind turbines, I'm referring to it as offshore because what they are, they're offshore turbines, which in real life suck. In this game, I'm going to show you they're pretty godly. 318 mil per facility. The power production on these things is identical. The max possible output is identical. The supply that you get on them, that will affect quite a lot actually, but the just raw costs per the max performance that you could get, these are them. Now the Indy complex is very cheap at 189 mil per facility. The Oceanic complex is 1.5 billion per facility. That's 1,423 million per facility. So that's huge. And because of that, in my head, I was thinking, naval turbines, maybe they're not actually better than Hydro. So I went ahead and I continued with my math here. And we can see we have, to drag it out a little bit, 6 Hydro and 3 Indy complexes, because if we go over here, we can see that in, Israel, for the most part, most of these places only let you put 2 Hydros per hex. 4 can happen, so can 6, even 3, I believe, but those are much rarer. So let's go with the most common option, which is putting 2 per hex. Now this is why this math just would not matter in Supreme Ruler Ultimate, because Supreme Ruler Ultimate, like if you can put 1, then you can put 6, and that's how it is all the time, but they've changed that here. So now we can have something to go with. So we're taking 1 Indy complex and 2 Hydros until we get 6 Hydros, and we're gonna compare that to 1 Oceanic complex, let's get to 1, where we can have, say, 6 naval turbines, ignoring oil derricks, because that's just obvious you want to put the turbines there. Well, those 6 Hydro and 3 Indy complexes will cost you 3,273 million annually. That's playing as this country with this inflation level. The numbers will change, but the actual relations won't. So even though your numbers in game would be different, the relation between these numbers will not. 6 offshore versus plus 1 Oceanic complex is 3,333 million annually. So you can see here very clearly, Hydro is the winner for annual maintenance. So that's it, isn't it? Because it's not. No, I wanted to expand this even further. I then started calculating the input costs of these. So if you include what you spend up front to build them, what's everything going to cost? So Indy complexes are 5,000 Indy goods per. That's 15,000 in total with this math. It's 165,000 Indy goods per Hydro plant. Times 6, that's 990,000. Plus the 15,000 from the Indy complexes, we have 1,005,000 Indy goods. And then I noted that you can get more Hydros in some locations, but the Indy complexes, the input is really not that high to change this math very much. So we move on. Oceanic complexes, 20,000 indie goods for an oceanic complex, 39,800 for an offshore, times 6 of the 39,800, you got 238,800 plus the 20,000 for the oceanic complex, you got 258,800 indie goods. So, assuming it's 27,000 on the market, dollars per indie good, that is $7 billion worth of indie goods for offshore, and 27,135 million for hydro. That is a huge difference of indie good input. Let's keep going. The upfront costs in money now is 6.06 billion per naval turbine, which added up is 36.36 billion, plus 3.19 billion for the oceanic complex itself. This equals 39.55 billion. Plus, you can add in the $7 billion for indie goods, and then you have $46.55 billion upfront for ocean complexes and naval turbines. The upfront cost is 6.12 billion per hydro, times 6, that's 36.72 billion. And now it's 159.48 million per complex, which equals 478.44 million. Oh my god, there's so many numbers here. And all of that added up, you're talking exactly 37,198,440,000 upfront costs. Add in the upfront cost of 27.135 billion for the indie goods, and you have a total cost of 64,333,444,000 for the hydro route, which is notably higher. So we have these two values, and as I noted, it is closer than I expected. We have the maintenance values that we came to, and the difference between these two maintenance values is 94,000 only. The difference between the two upfront costs is 17,783,440,000. And so, divided by the maintenance, I went ahead and did this math on a calculator, means that in order to start saving money overall spent with hydro, with 2 per hex, you would need 189,185 and a half years to pass in this game to start saving money by using hydro rather than using these oceanic complexes and the naval turbines, just filling hexes with that. Now that we have all that math done, let me try to tell you why hydro is actually still the most efficient and why you should use it generally if you can afford the upfront cost instead of these naval turbines, regardless of the math that I just showed you that shows you would have to probably waste 10 different PCs to even get far enough to make the money back. We all know what money is, and almost none of us know how it works. Think about it. How much budgeting do you do? Do you do your own taxes, or does your job do most of it for you? All these things, almost nobody knows how to use money or how it works. So let's talk about money and how it works, especially in this game. So when you think of money, you think, okay, over a period of time, I'm gonna make a certain amount of it, right? And I want to spend it in an efficient manner. Well, that's what you're thinking if you're budgeting and frugal. Most people don't think that way. But someone min-maxing in a video game is sure gonna think that way. With all this math we did, surely then it seems like these turbines offshore would be worth it, because you need to play more of this game than you're ever going to play in your entire life to actually save money on hydro. But you gotta stop thinking about it that way. That's not how it works in Supreme Ruler. Money is not this limited concept, right? Where you are only gonna make a certain amount of it and you gotta make sure you spend it as efficiently as possible. That is not how Supreme Ruler works, unless maybe you're microing every single thing in the game. Assuming you have any AI doing anything, like if you have AI controlling taxes, social spending, if you have AI controlling any of the prices, domestic prices and selling prices of your goods, which almost everybody is going to have something automated for at least some period of time. This completely changes the math, because an AI is not going to try to stockpile money infinitely. They are going to only make sure you have enough. So as you can see, the AI right now has me set to a 0% markup, meaning if I'm producing all of the goods, for example, oil, and then selling them to my population, I am making no money off of the direct sale price itself. Well, why would I do that? Well, it's quite simple. It's a couple of reasons. Number one, it would generate economy. You see my inflation right now, 6.4%. It's generating that number, which in this game is actually economic growth. You always want a positive value of that, and generally you want a higher than real life positive value of what you might associate with the word inflation. Additionally, if your population can afford goods, they get happy. Right now mine's at 48%. They get happier, and the happier your population, the higher the domestic approval rating, the more money that your population will generate for you via taxes and via sales. So if you ever have any markup, you're going to make more money. And as you know, the economy goes up, your population gets richer, they're going to have more money. As they get happier, you're going to earn more money. That is why the AI and most players really, the experience that you're going to have is that once you get enough money, you're going to stop making as much money as possible. You're going to stop doing the optimal thing, you know, because you got to win elections, and just generally because a lot of players, most that I've met, as well as the AI, they like to see the population happy and reap all the benefits that brings. There is some middle point where I can optimize my income between taxation and domestic prices, but you will almost never do that unless you need to. And if you are doing that and you're surviving off of that, you're about to lose the game because clearly you can't afford anything that you're doing. This means that to keep your population happy, to keep elections being won, and to just not min-max every second of every day, every trade, every single input and income that you get, some of these things are going to not be perfect. And so that's just wasted money, right? So now you're already wasting money by not min-maxing it because you might have other goals, or the AI might have other things in mind. Based on who you invade in the world, what wars you get into, how your population changes, your financial situation is going to change forever, especially in PvPs, but especially in very long campaigns. You might be doing great for money one time and not great for money another time. Meaning, since money is not just this preset limited thing that you spend, it's actually very dynamic. The way to actually min-max efficiency in this game is, if you can afford the upfront cost of hydro, then forget about that math. Look at this number. Can you afford it? Is the answer yes? Like, can you afford this up from this right now? Or can you save up and be able to afford it? Then good fucking job. You know what this means? This means that you are going to be getting this maintenance instead of this one. Meaning once the upfront costs are paid for, they're done. Whatever you had to do, whatever prices your AI had to raise, whatever taxes had to be raised temporarily, and whatever negative effects that came with that, they're gone. They're immediately gone. So you're already instantaneously seeing a benefit regardless of this long-term projection of a number. That means every day for the rest of your playthrough, and especially times where you might need the money, you're going to have more of it. Namely, with this specific math, you're going to have $94,000 extra per hex that you are filling, or per 6 worth, you know, per full hex's worth of these resources that you're filling in there. $94,000 per 6 facilities extra daily income. And that really adds up, because if you're a bigger country and you're relying on this kind of stuff, you could have hundreds of these things. Eventually, 94,000 added up becomes $1 million. It can become more than that even, especially when we're talking about saving over other power needs. This video has gone on long enough now that I believe anybody that really doesn't give a shit has probably clicked off of it by now. So if you're still here, that means you care about min-maxing, or you're at least entertained by my yelling. So what have we learned today? We have learned that offshore is cheaper upfront than hydro. Hydro will give you better finances every single day after being built. But if there's anything else that you needed to consider, here's something, actually. So if we come around to hydro, we see we could put it anywhere that these spots are. And in a lot of instances, let's go look at America. That's gonna be somewhere pretty fucking safe, right? You can defend these very, very easily. However, with an oceanic complex, they're just right out there. They could be in international waters, they could be in your own kind of territory. Either way, all it takes is to not have garrisons there, to not have random Spanish infantry defending it. All it takes is somebody showing up with a couple units and they could capture this pretty much immediately if you're not defending it actively. And it's very hard to defend some of this stuff. I mean, look, up here, if we get the oil stuff out, this would be a place where you might have room for naval stuff, but even then, you might choose to just build it anywhere that is like along your coast. This can be captured easily, this can be destroyed easily. Maintaining and building and acquiring a large navy is very expensive to defend your coastal waters or even waters further beyond that. Building a land force is extremely cheap in comparison and way quicker as well. Meaning, if you're in a PvP, for example, a player could show up, and if you rely exclusively on offshore stuff, if they have a better navy than you, say goodbye to your entire fucking power grid. However, to lose access to your hydro power grid, if we turn that back on, they'd have to invade you and capture key points, a lot of them, depending on what country you are. Turn off the ownership, you can see, usually very spread out. It's way harder to shut your power grid down if you're relying on hydro than if you're relying on electricity. So let that also put you in favor of that, because even if it's AI and not even PvP, the AI can still show up with ships and just either destroy or capture your entire power grid just like that. So my conclusion really is that offshore power, extremely efficient. In fact, I'd say it's fucking broken, because offshore power in real life sucks, and I wager the only reason it's this effective in the game is because, as the devs have said themselves, they're liberal, they're left-leaning, and they potentially believe that offshore power is this good. I wouldn't be surprised. But of course, there is a reason that nobody uses it in real life, and let the defensibility and the efficiency that I have explained here be a reason for you not to rely on this shit if you can afford the upfront costs of hydro. If you can't, and this is the best you can do, go ahead and do it. But I'd really suggest, due to the way war works in this game, investing in anything else to not rely on this. I think it's a very good supplemental power source. These naval turbines, if they ever try to make it more realistic in terms of efficiency and pricing, then it's gonna become dog shit overnight, right? But if it stays the way it is, which I'm pretty sure that it will, then this is amazing. This is overpowered. And you could build these constantly with 2/3 of the money that you would really need to build hydro. But just keep in mind that financially, even if it's only a little bit, every single day after they get built will be harder for you in this game than if you would have built hydro. And all it takes is one war with superior naval power to lose everything that you built with naval turbines, whereas with hydro, you might need to lose your entire country before you actually lose it. So hopefully that gigantic math-inspired ramble and min-max efficiency shit was entertaining to you. There's a reason I put this in the 2030 playlist and not in the guides playlist. For now though, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you are leaving entertained. And I hope to see you somewhere else.